Hello, everyone. My name is Anja Spice, and I am the PR and Digital Marketing Manager at the GDS Movement. Today, at the World Tourism Day, I'm joined by two fantastic individuals who will share insights on how destinations, particularly destination marketing organizations, can lead the way into sustainability and regeneration, serving as role models for others. First, we have Guy Bigwood, the CEO at the GDS Movement, which is an innovative and data-driven global change agency that is accelerating socio-economic and environmental transformation in cities and regions worldwide. Next, we are also joined by the lovely Katarina Thorstensson, Head of Sustainability at Göteborg Co, which is the destination management organization for Gothenburg in Sweden. Their mission is to inspire more people to discover and choose the city of Gothenburg. Welcome to you both.
Hello.
Thank you. Hi. Thanks.
Hi. Thanks for joining. So Guy, why don't you start us off by explaining a little bit about the GDS movement and its GDS-Index?
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are on this lovely World Tourism Day. Thank you, Destination Think, for inviting us. It's great to be here, and we're here to share some stories. So let me just introduce the GDS movement first, and then tell you a little bit about the story about the GDS-Index, and that's going to help us think about and discuss the benefits and what would you say, the journey of benchmarking that Katarina will bring out. So the GDS movement, we founded in 2019, and we, as Anja said, we work to support destination management organizations around the world to catalyze transformation in their cities and regions. But originally, we actually came out of a program that we started in the Nordics in 2010. And it kind of is ironic, it's a full circle here, because this came out of work I was doing with Katarina in Gothenburg, helping them to create their first sustainability strategy, and work we were doing with Copenhagen, where we started and helped them create their first sustainability strategy. And Katarina, and I think it was Steen in that day, and some of the other guys, and Lennart, they said, we've done some great work, let's share it. And so we started this program to kind of bring together all of the Nordic cities together. And the idea was, could we create a Nordic sustainable events or meetings region, we called it in those days. And we started work on this vision and everything come forward. And when this event was in Gothenburg, and it was a great success. We had some really great visions and ideas of what we could do together. And then I remember there was one voice from the back, and someone said, how do we know when we're there? And out of that, we started to think, how do we scorecard? How do we benchmark? How do we measure sustainability? And that was the catalyst. I think a year later at the next event, we launched the Scandinavian Sustainable Destination Index, which was a 15-question Excel document. Today we're on something very different. So we've really, moved around the world with this. And today, what that workshop and the work that Katarina and Lennart and Steen created is a movement that has changed destinations. We now work with over 120 destinations. And it's always been a program that's been created by destinations for destinations. Today, we're working on the indexing, but there's consulting, there's events, there's a GDS forum coming up. There is an academy of sharing knowledge. And so it's always about this kind of collaboration and sharing. And why do we do that? I think the people that created this, I'm sure Katarina would join me here in this thinking, is that we believe that tourism events can be catalysts to make places and people flourish and thrive. And, we can use this as the enabler of a better place. And we know that today, with all the challenges around us, that we need to move forward to have zero carbon communities, circular economies, biodiversity, food revolutions, more inclusive economies. more transformative visitor experiences and experiences for locals. And tourism and the events industry can be a part of that, has a role to play. So that's where we're at today. It's taken us a while to get there. And as I said, on that journey, the GDS Index has been, as someone once said, it's like the operating system. It's like, something that helps you get through day to day. So let me explain a little bit more about what the index is and kind of how it's involved, really. So for those of you who don't know it, there's something called the GDS Index that analyzes 77 qualitative and quantitative criteria. It's based in 4 units here, 4 pillars or categories, we call them. So we're assessing the city environmental performance, it's things such as climate emissions, wastewater. We're looking at the social performance of the city, the supply chain performance, and destination management. When we assess something, so if we assess something such as hotels, we're always looking at a quantitative and qualitative criteria. So we're trying to say, do you have a sustainability program across the destination for accommodation? Yes, no. Okay. And we kind of work out where you're at. Then we want to know a number. What percentage of your hotels are certified? If I looked at climate, we'd say, do you have a climate strategy? Yes, no. Does it integrate tourism into your city's climate strategy? Yes, no. What are your climate emissions per person per capita? So there's an example of the quantitative and qualitative. Not everything's perfect. The GDS Index has been on a journey, and every year we work on it to make it more robust and to align with where the cities are. We could make this really complex and really difficult, but not everyone in the world is a Gothenburg. And so we have to kind of create something that can work for everyone and everyone. It's a very robust program. It's created, as I said, by destinations. So we have a technical advisory committee. Katarina's been on for quite a few years. And I think about 20 other people this year who help us review, add, delete, modify criteria as the market evolves. And we do this pretty much every year. Actually, we do it every year. Some years we have a bigger change, like this year we had a really big change. But that's quite disruptive. So we have to kind of manage that across the thing. So that's why it's different to some things. How does it work? Someone like Katarina and the other destinations go onto an online platform. They have all those criteria, all the questions, and they have to go and complete the answers, right? So the question says, do you have a climate strategy? You say, yes, no. But then you have to upload some evidence. So Katarina would upload their city's climate strategy and help us, the assessor, to look at that by the system. And so the assessor then goes in and goes, yep, that's correct. So we are evaluating and assessing the answers and the proof that put into the system. That's really, really important. What does that allow us to do? It allows us, as you can see on this graph here, to kind of have some business intelligence. You can start to benchmark between cities. You can start to look at different criteria. You can start to understand how well you're doing on a supply chain or in a hotel area or on your communications activities. It gives you a lot of flexibility and a lot of ability to use both the reports that we produce, but also the online system. One of the things we produce, and we launched this, and we're about to launch the next one of these, I think it's October the 16th, is the GDS Index ranking. Out of all the cities that participate, we share the ranking of the top 40. Not everyone, but we share the ranking of the top 40. So here you can see 2022 and 2023. And Gothenburg is #1. Well done, Katarina. Katarina's been #1 since we created this. And hats off to her and the team. We should tell us a little bit more about that, I'm sure, in a second. And it's an interesting one because we're playing with this kind of concept, a little bit of competition. We echoed and we learned from rankings such as the Siemens Economist City ranking, the ECO ranking in the events industry, and many, many other rankings. And we're playing with this kind of concept of collaboration competition. It's good to know where you're at. It helps you set a target where you could go to. And then it's good to look around and see where other people are and what you can learn from them. And we've always had this spirit of sharing information. Sharing is always key to the GDS Index, and everyone signs up. So you share where you're at and what you're good at, also what you're not good at, and then you grow together. So, many people are really proud, and they should be, that they're number 50 or number 60 or number 99, because there's thousands of cities out there, and we've only got 100 and something are actually benchmarking to date. So there's a lot of opportunities for cities, a lot of opportunities for the GDS Index. What is wonderful is this graph is to see 2 lines. The top line is the top 10 city average of the top 10 cities in the GDS Index, and the bottom one is all the cities. Since we've started, we've seen a very beautiful progressive improvement of cities that participate in it. We know it makes a difference. 21% increase for the top and 54% increase for the top 10. So I think that's amazing. It's also amazing because the index every year gets harder. So this is actually, it's even bigger the jump if you compare it to what we created in 2016, our first index. So exciting, really.
That's very interesting, Guy. I've actually got a little bit of a follow-up question to that. So why do destinations choose to participate in the GDS Index?
I think there's lots of different reasons, really. So one, cities come in because they want to benchmark. They want to know where they're at. Are they doing good or are they not good? So others are looking for a kind of third-party assessment of what they're doing, so then they can use that in their in their city, in their marketing, in their communications, in their strategy sessions. So they can say, we are number 2, number 3, number 4, right? Or 55. Behind the index is a whole performance improvement program. So as soon as it's not just about having the ranking and stopping, we deliver a report, we work with the cities to guide them through and get better. We use the best practices and learnings from the whole community to help individual cities get better. And so people join it for that. And it is a helping hand. It's like a personal coach to get through. Many cities today use this as the basis of their sustainability strategy. And others use it just to start. When you're starting, it's massively complex. We're really good at taking cities who've got 0, get onto the platform and to work out where to start. It's like rabbits in the headlights. Where do I start? This can help you really focus, and the team's really good at doing it. So there's some reason from my point of view. I'm sure, Katarina, what from your point of view, why do you think destinations join this?
I was actually leading quite nicely to my next question for Katarina, because let's listen to Katarina's and Gothenburg's journey, basically. As Guy mentioned, Gothenburg has been, or is a leader in sustainability and the number 1 on the GDS Index for many years, since its inception, which is great. So could you tell us a little bit more about Gothenburg's journey and how regeneration has become a core value for the city?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for inviting me. Always happy to share our experiences from our journey. And first, I would like to start out with, for those of you, just in case that you're not super familiar with Gothenburg, we are the 2nd city of Sweden, and we are situated on the west coast by the sea. About 600 residents within the city, and a little bit more than 1 million in the metropolitan area. And in terms of tourism, just to give you a sense of what Gothenburg is, we have about 5.5 million guest nights 2023. So that's sort of the size of our destination. And I represent Göteborg Co, or Göteborg Company, and we are the destination management, marketing, development organization of the city of Gothenburg, and we are the organization that handles tourism matters in the city of Gothenburg, and we are owned by the city of Gothenburg. And everything that we do should benefit those living in Gothenburg. That is sort of why we exist. But we use meetings, events, and tourism to actually reach that goal for a better and more livable city. And within our organization, we have a CVB and we have a department for public events and, of course, a marketing and communications department as well. So we are a fairly large DMO in that sense. So in terms of our sustainability journey, I would say that the city has quite a long history when it comes to working on sustainability. And a really crucial point was in the mid-80s when the environmental minister at the time in Sweden, she named Gothenburg the courtyard to hell. And she had actually reason, because pollution was so severe. We were a really, really heavy industrial city. So she had reason indeed. But the flip side of this was that this sort of became an ignition point for the city to gather the forces and resources, and together with the private industry actually start tackling these issues. So that's where sort of we have one part of our progressive idea on how to proceed on environmental issues mainly. For our industry, we woke up a bit later, but ever since our organization was founded in 1991, the DMO, there are two sort of features, I would say, that characterizes the destination that we have worked with as a USP. And one is the within walking distance concept, that everything is actually within walking distance. The main congress venue, the main music and sporting venue is really, really close to the city center, where you have restaurants and clubs and other experiences. So that is one feature of the city that we have been using actively. Another one is using the city as an arena. And this is an example of it. This was the inauguration of the European Championships in Athletics in 2006, almost as the inauguration of the Olympics in Paris this year. Maybe not. This was the first time that the inauguration was allowed outside the official arena. So for us, this is a way for including more residents and visitors to get a piece of the action of the events. And we have used these concepts long before we tagged it with sustainability. So I would say that these are inherent features of the city that we now can say and work on a sustainable perspective. So these are sort of for free for us. And then in the 2000s, we started to explore and test how we could make the events that was within our control and that we had great influence on how we could make these public events more sustainable. And that is something that we are still working with, and it's a brilliant tool for us to test solutions, to showcase solutions, but also to challenge suppliers, since we set the requirements for the suppliers as well, with the meetings that or events that are within our control or where we have great influence. So this is sort of where we started to scratch on the subject. But an important and really important milestone was this project that we started in the 2010s in parallel, I would say, with the ICA Scandinavian chapter project. And it was a research and benchmark project to see how we as a sustainable meetings destination performed in an international context. And this was also made in broad collaboration with our stakeholders, engaging and involving the stakeholders. And this was made with the help of a certain change maker in this session. So thank you very much, Guy. I don't think we could have made it without you. So thank you. And this project, it ended up, one outcome was a common vision or a common long-term goal that was shared between all the stakeholders involved in this project. And this was really a crucial process for where we are today, I would say, to set out the road forward without knowing exactly how to make it. And now today we can see that it is actually possible to set a bold goal and to more or less reach it. Other more concrete effects or results is that we have a really high share of certified suppliers. These are some of our examples. And why I write 85 to 90, 85 to 100% is that this is sort of a matter that moves since we have new hotels coming up, venues that has been closed during the pandemic and now are starting up again. But we are around those figures like every year, more or less. And also this journey, I'm not sure that this would have been possible without it, because now the city has set a goal since a couple of years to become a sustainable destination by 2030. And this is manifested in a strategic program of the city of Gothenburg's Destination Development Program, with the long-term goal to become a sustainable destination by 2030. So that's a bit of our journey.
Yeah, you're doing great work. Really impressive. Well done, really. But I'm curious to know, how has the GDS-Index helped Gothenburg focus on sustainability and regeneration and align sort of its efforts? Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, actually, we've been working hand in hand with the development of the index, and it has been really, really helpful to us, both to guide us on strategic topics, on sustainable destination development, but also on quite concrete topics that are important to move forward. And that has been important both within the organization, but also in dialogue with and collaboration with our stakeholders and to our owners. So it has been a really strong tool for us. And as Guy mentioned, not the least, the improvement, the performance improvement tool. I think that is something that we could talk much more about, because it's a really powerful tool if you use it in a wise way. And then, of course, the benchmarking against ourselves, but also, of course, against other destinations, has been important to us. And since we have actually achieved the leadership award a couple of times, it has been an important marketing and business tool, of course. But I would like to say also that we are really, really proud of these awards, but also extremely humbled, because we know that all destinations have their challenges to overcome, and there are so many destinations out there doing such a good job. So it's really, really hats off, and we're in this together in a way.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
Perhaps let's look to the future a little bit now. Now you've told us about the journey and the past. I'm quite interested to know what's next for Gothenburg, and maybe a little bit of a cheeky question, but how do you plan to stay at the top of the GDS-Index? What's beyond the 2030 strategy?
What's next? I would say that is something we are thinking a lot about right now, and how to stay at the top of the index, all we can actually do is to keep on working and challenging ourselves and our stakeholders. Then, I mean, the index evolves, and also we have other destinations doing a brilliant job. So all we can do is sort of keep on our job, because there are always things that can be better.
Yeah. And because I'm sure other destination or DMOs will be watching this, what lessons can other destination DMOs, CVBs learn from Gothenburg's approach? Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Lessons, again, I don't know if we can sort of teach lessons, but I really do hope that we can inspire and maybe challenge some destinations. And there are some takeaways that we have from this process, of course, and that is, one is that collaboration and the involvement and engagement of the stakeholder is really, really key. And if you can sort of find and sort out a common vision, that is really a key thing, I would say. And then go back to see where are you right now, seeing the gaps, and using data and proper facts to actually sort of benchmark yourself first. And the index is a great tool for that. Like, doing the gap analysis is sort of a good way to start.
But actually, that's leading me to the next question. Is it all about the ranking? Like, what happens if, like, a city like Gothenburg, you know, if you don't stay at the top, or, you know, is there anything else, or what else can, maybe Guy could answer that question as well, or Katarina, but so yeah, what is it all about, the ranking, basically?
Yeah, well, you lose your job if you're not number one. Is that, I guess, is that the question?
I haven't tested it.
Is there, I guess, you know, there are certifications and rankings. So I guess, what's the difference between those? I mean, I'm sort of interested to know, and for others, I guess as well, what's better? Is it better to do one or the other, or both? Maybe, yeah, you can both.
Well, let's look at, there's a few questions there, maybe. So,
yeah.
Is it all about the ranking? No, I don't think so. It's about improving year on year.
Yeah, for sure.
Is it all about ranking? Maybe, you know, but you don't have to be number one in the world. You could be number one in the region, number one in your state, number one in your country. You could play with the competitivity there to drive things. I was just thinking, as Katarina spoke, her leadership has pushed Copenhagen and Helsinki to really step up, and the work they've done is definitely fueled. They're already doing good stuff, but it's fueled. It's pushed that next step. It's almost, you know, it's just like football, right? We were all trying to win the cup. So I think there's an element of there. But I see cities who are super proud of being number 40 or number 50 or number 60 because they were number 90. Look at Belfast. It was the last but one when they started, and then they got up to number 9. I think they're number 11 now, as more cities have entered. But hats off to them. And so, you know, one of the awards we have is the best improver. And for me, that's one of the awards I'm super proud of when I give out, is that to see, you know, Goyang or who else has won it, Belfast and other cities just change from zero to hero in 3 years. And we know that we've been part of that journey, right? So that's quite a humble feeling to have.
I think it is a brilliant tool, but with every tool, you have to know or have an idea how to use it.
Yeah.
So you should sort of think beforehand, or when you're in the process, what do you want to achieve from it? Is it to benchmark yourself, or is it to benchmark yourself to, as Guy said, your close neighbors, or is it to improve in this area? So I think it is like a tool. So have an idea on how to use it.
The question you asked is, how does it compare to certifications? So in many ways, it's very similar today. It wasn't like that, but very similar today. We're there to benchmark. Most certifications don't benchmark. It's a yes or no kind of answer. We're a yes or no, what's the number and how does that compare? So kind of benchmarking and sharing is core to what this is much bigger than any other benchmarking program, than any other certification program for destinations. So that's another thing. Certification systems are very valid. This is one of the core issues we drive in the GDS-Index. So whether it's hotels, venues, destinations, agencies, whatever, we're pushing for that. We believe certification makes the buyer's life easier. And it makes it simpler for the client, the customer, the traveler, the visitor to assess and choose what's good. Right? So I think that's a key thing. But you know, I would say most certification programs update every 5, even 8 years. Some of these we update every year. So there's a difference. There's a nimbleness and agility to the index to adapt to the issues. You know, so when COVID happened, it was parts the next year, where, you know, now there's a bigger focus on DEI after Black Lives Matter. It was already updated. Climate change already updated. So there's a nimbleness to look at the issues. And sometimes, you know, there's not a question about compliance, a yes or no to say that you're good enough to be certified. There's a question around, have you started to investigate it? Right? So, you know, and we've learned that with a lot of things like resident engagement. There's not perhaps a perfect way to do that yet, but as long as you've started. And so there's some questions and approaches to GDS-Index, which is all about just getting better. And it doesn't matter that you're maybe not there yet, you're just better than you were last year.
Okay, so it doesn't really matter. You shouldn't really focus on one or the other or pursue.
They complement. There's quite a lot of destinations that have got both. You know, and you can look at someone like Quebec or Singapore or Montreal, or they're on the journey. It can complement the different approaches. So that could be quite interesting. But I think times are changing, and there's a big focus in the EU at the moment around the quality of the standard that's used in a certification, and then the process that's used to assure the verification of you complying to that standard. And so, you know, a lot of this is under 3 different new pieces of legislation. Most people have heard of the EU Green Claims. This is going to be forcing all of the certification companies and the GDS-Index to step up. You know, I don't think we'll be allowed to stay as the kind of index in the way we are today, because people use the index to make a claim, and that goes out to different people. At the moment, this legislation is all for business. It actually doesn't really cover destinations. But I just think the soft power, the soft influence for that will force destinations to change. And I'm already seeing examples of that. If you're a hotel, you have to comply. Destinations is a great area, and we'll see what that means in the next few years. So what does that mean specifically? So the GDS-Index criteria, so our standard, has already been upgraded to comply. Today, we're using something called the ISEAL as a standard, and how we create the standard, but we will probably then certify that approach with an ISO. So we're just looking at that. There's a couple of different approaches right now. It's an interesting time. So we will definitely be, our standard will be certified. So that's going to happen in the next couple of years. Then there's the next bit, is what happens with that verification. The verification today, the way we assess the, you know, Katarina scores, for example, is done by our own team, right? The GDS, and we're also in charge of creating the standard with the destinations. That, under the new rules, is not allowed for certification. It is allowed under an index, so we'll stay with an index, but the index will become a certification, and it will become a certification, and we will have a third-party partner who will probably go on site and actually visit the facilities to assess compliance with the standard. That could have different levels to comply with other standards such as GSTC. So we're in a moment there of working that out, again, within the timeline, so within the next 2 years, which is the timeline from the EU, we will have worked that out and will be compliant. But again, that journey, like everything we do, is going to be discussed and worked with our destinations. So we have a meeting coming up in October, Katarina, and a number of other destinations to actually start to work on this and agree on this, which is the right approach. So it's an interesting time. I still think an index plays a key part of this work, and we're just going to see how we can keep an index and a certification, because they are different. And I hope we can have a GDS-Index and GDS certification. So something to start with, and something to really look and compare performance, and then something to really step up to assure compliance with an agreed international standard.
Yeah, I guess they come in, into the journey, or different times of the journey of a destination sustainability journey. So yeah, that's very interesting. A lot of changes to come.
Yes,
very exciting. Unfortunately, we're almost out of time, so I will have to close. Maybe we can go to the next slide, or to the last slide. I don't know if you wanted to have the next slide or the last slide.
I like that.
Oh, maybe yes, maybe. Why don't you?
I like
read that out, Katarina.
I love seeing from Katarina the journey you've been on, and how sustainability and our definitions have changed since 2010 when we created the first strategy, and to see kind of now how we have this much bigger understanding. And your work has evolved, and really starting to think of more regenerative approaches to not only do less bad, but to really generate good for the city and its people. So that's amazing.
Sure. Yeah, very well done. Well, thank you both very much for sharing such valuable insights. It's been very, very interesting and insightful. And it's basically clear that destinations have a vital role to play in driving sustainability and regeneration. Whether leading the way like Gothenburg, or learning from others, there's a path forward for all, I believe. So I hope today's discussion has inspired you to think about how your destination can contribute to a more regenerative future. And last but not least, I encourage everyone to explore the GDS movement as a company that is driving change, as we said earlier, across the global tourism industry and events industry. And you can learn more about their initiatives and resources by going onto their website. You can see it here on the screen. But I would also like to invite you to discover more about the impactful work that Göteborg Co, I'm sorry about the pronunciation, is doing, including their efforts to foster sustainable tourism and events in the city. And you can also see their website on the screen there. I would also like to thank Destination Think for their leadership, and basically for the opportunity to for us to take part. Thank you very much. And I would also like to close with a quote, basically. It's always nice to close with a quote, and it's just a quote from one of my yoga gurus. And it's about change. And it's actually saying that change is not something we should fear. Rather, it is something that we should embrace. For without change, nothing in this world would ever grow or blossom.
Lovely. Thank you, Anya.
Thank you very much.
And organizing this.
Thank you very much.